Hey there everyone, my name is Teawrex and I'm here today to help you get your very own Outbreak perfected. A revamped Outbreak Prime exotic pulse rifle from Destiny 1, now in Destiny 2. First things first, we'll have to go ahead and acquire the quest line. Beforehand though, you'll have to finish the prerequisite mission, Enemy of My Enemy, and meet TheTeawrex. I'd also recommend not killing him, for reasons. Once that's completed, you'll want to go ahead and fast travel to the rig, and then start heading towards the title anchor. You'll run past a whole bunch of hive, and then after going far enough, you'll find yourself in front of a door that hopefully says unlocked. Go through the door, and then farther in, there'll be a data pad on a table. Pick it up. The quest is now yours, and let's begin. The next thing we're going to work on is filling in these transponder nodes. Each one of these nodes has a riddle attached to it, signifying a place to go to pick up a node. Starting with the EDZ, in no particular order, the first one I picked up was directly beneath the church in the lost sector called the Atrium. Roughly about halfway through, usually there's this room that's guarded by bars. The bars are now gone, and a little bit past it lies a device on the ground. Pick it up, and then let's move on. Next up is the one in the drain. If you run past most of the lost sector, towards the back there's an area with 2 lights that has a drop-off. Go to the left there, and you'll see one on the ground. The third one I found was in the Whispered Falls. Right as soon as you walk in, you'll drop down and then look to your right. Immediately there should be a red barrel, shoot it, and then walk behind it. It'll be right at your feet. The final one of the EDZ will be at the Widow's Walk, right next to the church. Run all the way to the Lost Sector chest, jump up, and it'll be there on the floor. The final 2 are going to be on Nessus. The first of them is at the Rift, right next to Failsafe. You're going to run through and then jump over the chasm, hopefully without dying, landing inside of this container. The final node is going to be in the Carrion Pit Lost Sector. The easiest way I can describe for how to find it is to run all the way to the end of the Lost Sector chest, turn right, and it'll be around a corner. Now with all the nodes filled in, believe it or not, we actually need to go to the farm. If you load in, head to the right, and go down towards the basement that used to be closed off, you will find it is now open. And at the end of the basement, you'll see a shadowy figure that happens to be no other than TheTeawrex. Go ahead and grab yourself a fire team of ideally 690 plus guardians, and let's begin with the hard part of the exotic quest. You and your fire team, once you rendezvous, are going to be sent to some familiar territory, the Old Tower. For the first part of this mission, you're essentially going to be running the very first mission of the game, but in reverse. On top of that, you're also going to be dealing with a 20-minute timer. Throughout this section, you'll be dealing with some pretty tough fallen enemies, including a spider tank at one point. My personal recommendation is to go ahead and bring some very good shield-breaking weapons of all varying kinds, and of course some good solid DPS weapons. Some good examples of these would be a Mountaintop, a Whisper of the Worm, an Arbalest. There's some fantastic weapons out there for boss damage and for ad clearing. For the duration of the first combat section, the game is going to be holding your hand pretty hard on where to go. But after that, it gets a little more confusing. After you kill the final set of enemies and go past the final barrier, you'll find yourself in a more open area with a big building with a big M on the side. Slide into the elevator shaft and fall all the way down. You'll then crawl through a small vent and then open up into a ship bay area. Go down directly to your left, right below where the ship is at. You'll find yourself in a small alcove with yet another vent to crawl through. Walk forward until you find yourself in a room that has a vent with yellow shutters. If you turn left, you'll find another identical yellow shuttered vent. Shoot it, walk forward, and then try to drop down on the little platform that's below you. Now, much like the Whisper of the Worm questline, there's a lot of different ways to go, and many of them are dead ends. Trust me, this is where you want to be. Going a bit further, you'll eventually find yourself outside again. What you're going to want to do is try to get yourself all the way down to the bottom of this area, on top of a small piece of scaffolding, which there will be a button for that'll help you teammates get there even easier. This may take a few tries, so don't worry if you don't get it the first time. Once your whole fire team is down there, look up and try to find the vent that's open above you. Go through the vent until you eventually find yourself in a big vertical shaft. You're going to want to climb about halfway up into the second set of shuttered vents, shoot the one on the right side, and proceed forward until you appear in a fan room. The obvious path before you is down, but there are fan blades in the way. What you're going to want to do is to hide your body in the corners where the red is at. Slowly drift your way down until you reach all the way to the bottom. You're then going to make some very large jumps to the right, to the left, and then all the way to the end of this big chasmed area. When you make it all the way to the end though, there is a button you can hit to spawn some safety platforms to make it easier for your teammates. Once you follow a few more pathways, you'll find yourself in the ventilation system and with our good friend Trevor the Murderbot. During this part, you're going to turn right, snake your way down into the ventilation system, and attempt to navigate a maze and activate 4 different switches, which then activate a door on the opposite side of the maze. The typical strategy I've been running is to send one person on the left side, one person on the right side, and the third person can navigate them if they need it. But typically, it's pretty straightforward. It's a bunch of squares, not that hard to get lost. But Trevor the Murderbot is going to try to find you and murder you with electricity. Once you hit all 4 switches and make it all the way to the end of the maze, you'll then be navigating up an elevator shaft yet again. This time there are 4 platforms, pick one, look up, and then once you're near the top platform, jump on top of the bridge. We're getting pretty close to the end of the navigation section, so bear with me. Right after this, there's a giant slide that will end with your death if you aren't prepared for it. There's going to be objects on the right and to the left on the slide down. Avoid them, but try your best to maybe jump every once in a while to slow your momentum, so that way you don't go splat by the time you hit the end of it. You're going to want to take the pathway on your left towards the stairs. At the top of the stairs, there's going to be a small vent that you can navigate through. Do so and you'll drop into the old vault of the old tower. If you look at the opposite wall of the giant metal circular door, there'll be a set of pipes with a small cryptarch symbol next to it. If you walk up close enough to it, it'll open a hidden passageway. You have now found yourself inside of the cryptarch archives. Walk all the way straight through it and then take a right at the final area and you'll find yourself going down a hole and on your way to the final fight with TheTeawrex. Now let's talk about strategy for this final fight. You're going to be in a large open area with lots and lots of ads. My personal recommendation is to focus the ads first and the boss second, almost always at all times. With how open the whole arena is, it feels pretty easy to always be getting gunned down by somebody somewhere. The sets of enemies I would absolutely focus are going to be the servitors that spawn alongside a whole bunch of shanks, and of course the 2 spider tanks towards the end. If you bring a warlock with you, I highly recommend they go Chaos Nova Bomb, specifically with the Skull of Hamkara. They'll make short work of the shank plus servitor combos. On top of that, of course, Tether is fantastic as always. And if you're on Titan, of course you can use Hammer Strike for boss damage, or alternatively, run Sentinel with Code of the Commander to use Void detonations to destroy the spider tanks. When it comes to boss damage, it's pretty much dealer's choice when it comes to weaponry and strats, but of course things like Whisper the Worm will make quick work of this boss, hands down. But if you don't want to snipe, you can always use some things like Prospector, Thousand Voices, shotguns, grenade launchers, plenty of fantastic choices there. If you manage to kill our big mean captain friend with enough time remaining and all the enemies down, congratulations, Outbreak Perfected is now yours. Hopefully this short guide has been somewhat helpful for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.